Success is ours for the taking. Your liar mentality, the 2024 review show. Your liar mentality, the 2024 review show. My guest and I will review some of the 2024 inspirational podcast. The majority of our podcast has provided vital information. My guests were invited to share their knowledge and experiences because they have previously demonstrated genuine compassion and determination. They create safe, inclusive environments from which Demotivatorshow audience can, with confidence, accept the knowledge shared free from bias or misinformation. This is part of Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your liar mentality, the 2024 review show. Your liar mentality, the 2024 review show. My guest and I will review some of the 2024 inspirational podcast. The majority of our podcast has provided vital information. My guests were invited to share their knowledge and experiences because they have previously demonstrated genuine compassion and determination. They create safe, inclusive environments from which Demotivatorshow audience can, with confidence, accept the knowledge shared free from bias or misinformation. This is part one of the 2024 podcast review. We welcome your feedback and suggestions of specific podcasts you would like to see reviewed. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your liar mentality, the 2024 review show. Anthony Brown's story. In the summer of 1982, Anthony Brown, then 21, was hoping for an acceptance letter for a place to study law in London. He'd worked hard for his A-levels in computing, maths, physics at North Trafford College in Manchester and was full of energy and idealism. Instead, he received a letter from the Home Office telling him he was in the UK illegally and needed to report to Manchester Airport for deportation. Brown, who was born in Jamaica but moved to England as aged 6 years old in 1967, had been classified as an immigration offender. Anthony Brown's story. Many people in Brown's position were repatriated, but his case was taken up by a group of campaigners who were determined to prevent his removal from the United Kingdom, launching what became known as the Anthony Brown anti-deportation campaign. Professor Gus John, then a community activist and now an academic and an equalities campaigner, helped coordinate it. Professor Gus John said, the system was barbaric. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your liar mentality, the 2024 review show. We love Nigeria. Ninus, 5-point proposition, is now the only viable mechanism for halting the state capture of Nigeria and for safely navigating Nigeria to the harbour of constitutional reconstruction. Proposition A. acknowledgement of the constitutional grievances raised in union disputes. Proposition B, express commitment to decommission the imposed fraudulent and unitary 1999 Constitution. Proposition C, express commitment to suspend further national elections under the 1999 Constitution. The untenable outcome of the 2023 presidential election must now be transformed into an immediate transitioning for reworking the damaged constitutional basis of Nigeria. Proposition D, constituent peoples of Nigeria to work out the modalities for transitioning. Proposition E, announcement of a time-bound two-stage transitioning commence with a regional referendum for constituent components to recommit to or opt out of the Nigeria Union. Then delineation of terms of unions depending on outcomes of the referendums. Ninas is right. We love Nigeria. Transition for Union Reconfiguration. We love Nigeria. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your lion mentality. The 2024 review show. Southwark Council's Maternity Commission evidence. Severe maternal morbidity, often referred to as near miss or near death. A study from 2014 shows that compared to white European women, Black African women are 83% more likely and Black Caribbean women are 80% more likely to suffer a near death whilst pregnant. Southwark Council's Maternity Commission evidence. Systematic racism within the UK maternity care. Systematic racism within the UK maternity care is risking the safety of people from Black, Asian and mixed ethnicity backgrounds, often with devastating consequences, according to a report by the childbirth charity Birthright. The Guardian newspaper article on the 23rd of May, 2022. Southwark Council's Maternity Commission evidence. Demographics and wider determinant of health. The average age of Southwark mothers in 2022 was around 33 years old, compared to 30.9 years old in England and Wales. Mothers over the age of 35 are at risk of complications during pregnancy and childbirth. Examples: preeclampsia, miscarriages, gestational diabetes, maternal mortality. Babies of older mothers face high risk of high or low birth weight, stillbirth, preterm birth, and chromosomal abnormalities. Southwark Council's Maternity Commission's evidence, staffing and staffing retention. Midwives and representatives from the maternity services workforce reported feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, exhausted and unsupported due to consistent staff shortages. Representatives emphasised the negative impact of understaffing on quality of care, frequently over the course of the evidence-gathering meeting. Results from the online survey showed that 31% of staff members felt that they had the capacity to deliver perinatal care to the highest standards. Of those who felt they could not, the main reasons were focused on staffing, with staffing reporting lone working when they should have been delivering care in a team of up to 4 staff members, as there was not enough staff or resources to provide the necessary care. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your lion mentality. The 2024 review show. And it is indeed the 2024 review show. This is the motivator here. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. How are you feeling, people? How are you feeling? Well, I'm feeling fantastic. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I hope you enjoyed those few excerpts from a past podcast in 2024. I was providing you with a flavour of some of the quality of those transmissions, the information filled, yeah? Inspiring information that raised consciousness, awareness levels, and prepared you for action so we can create a better environment for yourselves, your family, and your children, and your wider communities. And so say all of us. And that's what these podcasts are concerned with, that you are informed, empowered to take the right action for yourself and your family, and of course, the community from which you are a part. There you go, there you go. Now, without further ado, I'm going to go right into this one. It's going to be an action-packed, information-full podcast as usual. And we'll have the main interview in approximately 30 minutes' time. But between now and then, there are a few announcements and really some highlights I want to bring to your attention. But the first highlight, I want to congratulate our good people from Burkina Faso. It is a truly awesome experience when you're amongst people who are standing up on their own 2 feet, defending their land, yeah, being culturally centered, as it were, and are clear what they want to achieve against all the odds, yeah, all the odds. And when I say all the odds, I mean countries here in Western Asia, France, Britain indeed, maybe Britain for now, yeah, Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Belgium. Oh yeah, oh yeah. You'd believe that we're back in the 19th, 18th century, wouldn't you? By the testimonies being provided by the good people of Burkina Faso. I want to thank the chairman and, of course, that aspiring young man he had with him, teaching. Wasn't they an example of what Africa really is? You know, not the false images that are projected through these news media of corrupt politicians, failing economists, yeah, underperforming residents. Yeah? This was an example. They were an example of what's actually happening on the continent outside of all the propaganda that we are often exposed to. I want to compliment the good people of Burkina Faso. I want to compliment the good people of Niger. I want to compliment the good people of those countries that are now part of the Sahel region. Mhm. And what makes this such a powerful testimony is that it's there for you to see for yourself the progress that they are making. Hmm? It's there for you to see for yourself. And why is that powerful? Because what we can see is progress. And we know now, if we are in any doubt, that the places which are designed to falter their progression. But these are men and indeed women of conviction. This is the land of the honest, upright, incorruptible men. This is the land of people of principle, of conviction. This is the land that we should give support to, so they can plot their own path to the future and not simply dance to the tune of other people. Oh yeah, to the people of Burkina Faso, I salute you. I salute you. There you go. I salute you. There you go. There you see the fireworks. I salute you. I salute you. Well done. Well done. And we'll continue to report on your progression. Okay. Well done. Well done. Well done. Rather. Thank you. A most pleasurable experience. A most pleasurable experience. And I say to the president of Burkina Faso, yeah, Ibrahim Traore, President Ibrahim Traore, I say to you, well done, well done. Continue your good works, yeah. Remain centered. Never forget the words of Thomas Sankara. Never forget those words. In your feelings of downness, yeah. Never forget the words of Thomas Sankara. And you'll be upright again, incorruptible, clear, firm, and direct. Oh yeah, oh yeah. We need to give him that energy, so we will continue. We will continue. We will have the chairman and others in the studio in a month or two's time, and we will continue to report on the progress of that great nation. Rather, I can only wish such a progression could be found in the land of my birth of Jamaica. Okay, Jamaicans. Now we've got competition, huh? And we can and we will strive to meet those wonderful heights set out by the good people of Burkina Faso. Long may you continue to do so. Okay, all right. Thank you. Well done, people. Well done. I also want to give a further announcement, and if I may, and I want to really just do this in a really useful way, because I'm conscious that our last podcast has received resounding applause from the people. Okay? Resounding applause. And I want to continue in that vibe and ensure that we are able to meet those standards that the good people of Burkina Faso have set for us. Okay. Yeah. I even understand that the new president of Ghana has made it clear he wants to join the Sahel group of states. Yeah. Well done. I also understand that the good people and the leader of Botswana wishes to do the same. Long may that continue. I understand the good people of the Ivory Coast wishes to join up as well. Yeah. Oh yeah. We're going to create, we will create that movement for change so that we can create peace and prosperity for all. so we can create peace and prosperity for all. Yes, Nigeria, I am speaking to you. I am speaking to you as well. Yes, Nigerians, I am speaking to you as well. And speaking of Nigeria, and of course, you recall that I've had many Nigerians here in the studios, okay, speaking about reforming that country so it can better satisfy, meet the needs of the people, that burgeoning population, okay, the most populous country in Africa, okay. But within those people is the capacity to effect the changes necessary so we can create peace and therefore prosperity for all. I would commend the organization, both IBOP, yeah, and of course NINAS. Both organizations seek to create peace so they can create prosperity for all. I know there are other organizations in Nigeria wishing to do the same. I'd invite you, leave a comment during this show. Yep, leave a comment. I can see your comments if you're on YouTube and Facebook. I can see your comments. I invite you to leave a comment if you wish to reach out to me. Send a message through to me and I'll put you on, absolutely. If you're an organization dedicated to want to create a reformed Nigeria so we can create the conditions for peace, so we create prosperity for all. It is vitally important. But the organization that's been here most prominently, okay, is of course NINAS, and I will put their details on the screen. I want to put it out on the screen. There you are. If, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your tribal or community allegiances, want to join together, join the NINAS organization and become an affiliate and thereby create a condition through which peace is possible so they can create prosperity for all Nigerians. I place on the screen right now their email address. It's info@ninasvoice.org, ninasvoice.org, or their website address. It's www.ninasvoice.org. I commend that organization to you. And of course, I want a big shout out to Ndidi. Ndidi, of course, in my view, one of the most talented international journalists there is, okay? And her articles are true insight as to the thinking of international journalists of African descent, okay? I'm going to put one of her sayings, one of her articles on screen for you. And she says this: given the state of Nigeria, indeed Africa, and indeed the African world, the Caribbean and beyond, I think people haven't yet made the mental link that they are responsible for the kind of existence they hand over to their children. So says Ndidi Iwechu. Okay. And it is for these reasons why I make reference to the great people of Nigeria. It is for these reasons I remind us all that this is a part of a village, that we are all responsible to help all Nigerians so they can reform that country, to create a condition for peace so we can create prosperity for all. And in doing so, Nigeria will fully enter the technological age. Okay. There are some basic services all Nigerians would have a right and access to. Reliable electricity, a good health service, which is accessible to all Nigerians, therefore paid for through your taxes. Yeah, good sanitation services. Yeah, so you're no longer doing it in the street. Yeah, good sanitation services, good education for the children. Yeah, whether it be primary education, nursery or primary education, yeah, or secondary or senior education from 12 through to 18, and of course higher education, university and technical college. Because in doing so, in educating the people, you prepare the country for the technological age. It cannot be satisfactory. Only if you've got enough money are you going to receive a suitable education. That's mad, and that's no way to build a nation. Nigeria has the resources. It just needs the will. to overcome the corruption, overcome the seduction that many people are exposed to, so they think of themselves rather than the whole. They have that capacity. I've met many of Nigerians. I know you have that capacity. You're not simply Igbo. You're not simply Yoruba. Yeah? You're not simply Hausa. You are not simply Fulani or others, Adati. Yeah? You're not simply. You are indeed a great peoples. And it's that greatness that we seek to tap into so that you can utilize that God-given ability to reform and to create peace so that you can create prosperity for all Nigerians. Praise be. Long may you continue your great works. I know you have it in you. And my last announcement before I get on to the crucial lifestyle messages is, of course, reminding people of what happened in the Caribbean. Yeah? Only a few months ago, at the beginning of the hurricane season. Okay. Many of you be aware of the environmental challenges the world has been experiencing, particularly in the past 10 years. In the past 10 years, our planet, for tens of thousands of years, has experienced the hottest temperatures ever. Dangerously high, rapid increase in temperature levels across the planet. As a consequence, here in London today, it's a remarkably warm day, and we are in the height of winter. There's no sign of snow. In fact, yesterday morning was a wonderful, sunny, spring-like morning. Today is a little overcast, but the temperature levels is abnormal. So the temperature, our ambient temperature has risen, and it's had direct impact on the temperature here in these relatively, moderate climes. Yeah, but where the Caribbean is located near the equator, the weather is exceptionally hot. As a consequence, the weather patterns change or become more extreme. And what happened at the beginning of the typical hurricane season is that they had a very unusual hurricane. An hurricane with a level 5 categorization, in other words, over 100 miles an hour wind speed. As a consequence, it devastated parts of the islands of Antigua and Jamaica. Until today, there are still thousands of people whose lives remain devastated as a result of Hurricane Beryl, the first Category 5 hurricane of the hurricane season. And it was devastating, left far too many people's lives destroyed. So we continue to raise money for them. And in fact, in a couple of weeks' time, I will demonstrate to you where your resources have gone. But for now, we continue to strive to acquire resources. And let's put it on the screen. So in response to the Hurricane Beryl Disaster Relief Fund established by the P&P UK, what they seek to raise money for is to raise money for people, particularly in Jamaica and the parishes of St. Elizabeth and Manchester. And what they want to purchase is perishable food, bed kits and sheets and pillows, children's and adult diapers, tarpaulin, zinc and building materials. Yes, very basic items. But this is what the people need, okay? I know the government of Jamaica is working hard to support those people, but the government of Jamaica would welcome international support, particularly from the peoples of the world, yeah? From the peoples of the world. So if you can and you are able to give, please do so. And I will ensure that the information you need as to how your resources is spent, and there'll be no money will be taken for administration. That would be the case if this were an international charity. Up to 80-90% in some ridiculous cases from these very popular, well-known charities take of your donation. Not a penny in admin will be taken by the P&P UK. Their bank details is as follows. NatWest Bank, sort code 600802. account number 298-61233. And in any financial transmission, please include reference DRF Beryl, Disaster Relief Fund Beryl, DRF Beryl, so we know it's intended for that purpose. And we thank you in advance for your donation. And I've got evidence of how some of your resources have been spent, and I will have a special show at some point in January or early February. That will really be a heartwarming experience. I know you would agree once it happens. Okay, very well. I want to now move on to the other part and why these transmissions are important. Many of you be aware that we all should be concerned about our health and well-being. And there are surprising figures, particularly as it pertains to people of African heritage and particularly South Asian heritage. The general health and well-being has been called into question because the stats suggest that our communities are remarkably affected by certain lifestyle conditions which are preventable. That's why they're called lifestyle conditions. Lifestyle conditions that, if we don't respond to, will have a devastating impact on your general health and well-being, and indeed the quality of your life, indeed foreshorten your life. Okay. What I want to do now, I'm going to play for you the lifestyle messages. Those lifestyle messages, and I urge you to watch and listen keenly. There's no attempt to embarrass. This is purely for you to understand what you can do to make the difference. Here we go. I'm going to play it for you now. So if in doubt, ask questions. Here we go. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Lifestyle messages. We ask that you consider the amount of sugar and salt consumed each day. There is a direct causal link between the overconsumption of sugar and type 2 diabetes, prevalent particularly in the African heritage communities. It is estimated that more than 2 in 4 have either a diagnosed condition of diabetes or an undiagnosed condition of diabetes. Here in Britain, the NHS spends more than £26 billion treating people with diabetes, which is a condition for life. Too much salt in our diet disrupts the natural sodium balance in the body. This causes fluid retention, which increases the blood pressure exerted by the blood against the blood vessel walls, or high blood pressure. The potential impact of too much salt can include enlarged heart muscles, headaches, heart failure, high blood pressure, kidney disease, kidney stones, osteoporosis, stomach cancer, and strokes. Another lifetime condition. We ask that you consider the amount of carbohydrate consumed each day. Typically derived from wheat-based produce such as pasta and other related wheat-based products, and of course root vegetables such as potatoes and the yam. And yes, I did say yams. Excess carbohydrates intake places a large metabolic load on the body. When the body constantly has high levels of blood sugars to deal with over time, this leads to weight gain, poor metabolic health, and an increased risk of heart disease. We ask you to consider the amount of fat that you consume each day. On the screen, you can see raw meat. Clearly, the red meat is meat, but the white streaks you see in the meat is fat. Our bodies need healthy fat for energy and other functions, but too much saturated fat can cause cholesterol to build up in your arteries, in other words, our blood vessels. Saturated fat raise your LDL or bad cholesterol levels. This can increase your risk of heart disease and neurological strokes. Too much fat is linked to increased risk of obesity or fatness, coronary heart disease, and certain types of cancers, such as breast and colon cancers. On the screen, you see a partially blocked arteries, mainly made up of fatty acids and other ingredients mentioned previously. The blood is being forced through the partial blockage by the heart. Another consequence is, of course, increased hypertension or high blood pressure. Examples of starchy foods include potatoes, bread, pasta, cereals, and rice. Excessive consumption of starch, scientific studies have shown, may cause insulin resistance, in other words, diabetes, may cause skin irritation, many of us will recognize as eczema, may cause gastrointestinal irritation. Many of us will recognize these conditions. On the screen, you can see the examples of the consequences of our lifestyle. Excessive consumption of sugar and salt, carbohydrates, and fat and starch. You see the young lady and gentleman with the bloated shoulders, bloated chest, bloated abdomen, bloated thighs, and bloated bottoms, or buttocks in polite company. The consequence of our lifestyle. The prevalence of obesity amongst black women in the United Kingdom is significantly higher compared to the general population. Approximately 58% of black women in Britain are classified as obese. This rate is considerably higher than the average obesity rate for women across all ethnicities in the UK, which currently stands at between 30 to 32%. This is a public health emergency. The prevalence of obesity amongst black men in Britain is also notably high. Approximately 38% of black men in the UK are classified as obese. This rate is higher than the average obesity rate for men across all ethnicities in the UK, which is around 27 to 29%. This is a public health emergency. The experts recommend that we should eat fresh, untainted foods, including tomatoes and oranges, melons and beetroot, noriega and avocados, grapes and apples, lemons and cabbages, lettuce and cherries, bananas and cucumber, and pears and onions, sweet corn and pineapples, carrots and cauliflower, garlic and sweet pepper, lemons and many other fruits and vegetables, which are untainted and are good for you. The experts recommend that we should ensure that we consume between 2 to 3 litres of water per day. It does depend upon your height and your mass. You see on the screen a young man drinking his water, the young lady enjoying her water. The advice given to you about our lifestyle will not mean anything to you unless you exercise. To exercise for life. You see the young lady with her weights, pumping her weights. You see the mature gentleman running with his headphones in with a smile on his face. You see a young lady running up and down those stairs. Oh yeah, that is real exercise. You see the young man pushing up and down with his push-ups. This is exercise. Our bodies need exercise. It is important for us always to consider our mental and spiritual health. If you have concerns about your mental health, please seek out professional advice or speak out to those you most trust. I trust that they will seek out the right advice and support for you. And of course, as human beings, we are truly spiritual entities. It is important to speak to your spiritual advisors. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. There you are, and there you have it. Basic lifestyle messages. Why do I do this? I've seen far too many good people pass before their time. I experienced far too many good people who were weighed down with unnecessary illnesses that is possible to avoid. If we think about our lifestyle, what we're eating, what we're doing to ourselves, we can transform our prospect for a good quality lifestyle. And it's incumbent upon us, as members of the village, as it were, to share messages with other members of the village so that that message can resound and become a part of their consciousness. And what I'm heartened by that whilst these messages have been shared with you repeatedly over time, that there is a tremendous response from the many communities. You don't have to be of African descent. You don't have to be of South Asian descent, particularly those communities are particularly affected. You can be of any descent, he says, and hear these messages and respond in a positive way. What I'm heartened by is people I come across, particularly those who were able to overcome this sense of ethnicity, this sense of social class, this sense of education, this sense of general fitness, and come together in common aim and common purpose and recognize that we're all part of humanity. And in being so, that we have a responsibility to help each other to transform our health, indeed our lifestyle. And in doing so, we exhibit the greatest aspect of what it is to be a human being, that we care for each other, okay? And in doing so, we become the best of ourselves. I want to give you an example of a group of people who've come together, common aim and common purpose, who've demonstrated those underlying principles, those principles which are the foundations of these transmissions. And in doing so, they are transforming communities. I know there are communities right across Britain and indeed other places who have responded to these messages. And I thank you. Remember, consistency. Okay, there we go. I say again, consistency matters here. Okay, I know some people start and they stop. Consistency matters. That's why you exercise together with others. So you are part of that community. Let me give you an example of people who've come together in common aim and common purpose, who understand the value of community, of coming together and working together. So when you're feeling a bit sluggish, others will then pick you up. I commend to you what they call themselves the Countdown Organization. Here we go.
Cheese. Famous.
Oh, yes.
Hello. self get one life for live. Why we no go use am gladdy and enjoy the time? Palava no dey finish, time me no dey wait nobody. Now why are they try for always
them exercising?
Every day and night. This world where we all friend we safe, now nobody only.
Come together,
You want to eat with you,
common aim and common purpose. Stay well, stay healthy.
And the balance where you go die left, now all the money on. So why for the greedy you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy 'em. If you see finance where you collect bill 'em, oh. You meet up woman where you let yanam. And if you let the man na for keep 'em. Want them more. The food where you feel for eat na for eat 'em. That fine la pan where you let na for buy 'em. And tie 'em more. And if you baby love you back love 'em. But if you love them all now you na for left 'em. Want them more. Cause nobody know waiting tomorrow old. So every day of my life till old, I fasting enjoyment stay go. Now for land for care for yourself. Nobody love you pass yourself. All man they fed for himself. Oh. Now why I know they allowed with the other man they pan take me peace away. Me joy away. Me smile away. Oh no make nobody take you peace away. Me joy away.
Oh yes, more
Me
exercise.
smile away. Oh no Every day. I see they also they work for the pay. They like na boku on a small you the cage. Land for the loose body 110. No to money, no to gently. No money make motor man. As long as you get waiting, land for the loose body 110.
Exercise so good.
This one way we often we safe now. Nobody
Get yourself exercising.
You want to eat with you
Eat
want
well.
to go down
Positive
your belly.
outlook. Get yourself exercising.
Balance where you go die left now all the money on. So why for the greedy you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy 'em. If you see finance where you collect bill 'em, oh. You meet up woman where you let yanam. And if you let the man na for keep 'em. The food where you feel for eat na for eat 'em. That
Exercise is
fine
good.
you let na for buy 'em. And tie 'em oh. And if you baby love you back love 'em. But
Look,
if you
even the
love them
children
all,
there,
now you na for
observing.
love 'em.
Yep.
Want them more. Cause nobody
They're playing.
know.
Some
Nobody
children
know waiting
are
tomorrow
exercising
old.
with them.
So every day of my life till
Yep.
old, I
What
fast
you're doing
in
is teaching them
enjoyment
good
stay
habits
go. Now for land
as
for care
children.
for yourself. Nobody love you pass
They take those good habits,
All man
those
they
good
fight
habits
for
into
yourself.
adulthood.
Now why I know they allowed with the other man they pan take me peace
Yeah, let the
away.
children exercise with you.
Me joy away.
They learn from you.
Me smile away. Oh no make nobody take you peace away. Me joy away. Me smile away. Oh no
Wonderful. Oh, I'll stop there, should I? I'll stop there. Wonderful. Whenever I see them exercising, oh yeah, they're responding to the lifestyle messages, eating well, regularly checking their vital signs, their blood sugar levels, their heart rate, ensuring that they're not overwhelmed with cholesterol, moderating the cholesterol intakes. Oh yeah, that exercising, hydrating appropriately. Oh yeah, taking care of ourselves so we can live long, healthy lifestyles. That's what we need to do. It's incumbent on me and others in my position to share these messages with you. And I know you understand why it is necessary. Because constant repetition means that it's slowly, you will respond, And if you live in South London, I know there are some people who live in South London and not exercising. It's true. Some people are exercising even after all these messages. Don't you worry. if you really want to reach out to them, why not reach out to them? If you live in South London, let me see if I've got the right one here. This is not the right one, in fact. Let me not put up that one. I won't put up that one. But what I will do is find for you the correct slide, which you can contact the Countdown organization. In fact, I might just correct slide here. There you go. That's the correct slide. There you are. So if you live in South London, particularly if you live in Southwark in South London, and you want a free exercise session, they meet every Monday at 12 Tatum Street. That's in Walworth, and the postcode here in London, S for sugar, E17 1TN. Okay, every Monday from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Okay, you can reach out to them on email address countdown0405 and at gmail.com. Countdown 0405 at gmail.com, or you can speak directly to either Kadi or Ishmael on 07. If you're in the UK, it's 07960 803 588. I commend the Countdown organization, the group of people who've come together in common aim and common purpose, recognizing if we do this together, we're more likely to be successful. If we do activities together, we're more likely to be successful. Yeah? People of Burkina Faso absolutely know this, and they're transforming their nations. I know Nigerians will do so, and will work together to transform that nation. Oh yeah, every confidence in yourself, don't you worry. And I hope you would agree that those messages are a vital part of who we are here on The Motivator Show. To motivate you so you take action, yeah? Translate the words into action, okay. All righty, now we reach the point in which we can begin the review of 2024. Okay. I see at least one of my guests has arrived. Excellent. And if you wish to communicate with the studio anytime, you can, of course, send a message via YouTube. We're live on YouTube, and indeed on Facebook, and the messenger service is there. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget, if you haven't left a comment or subscribe, please do so. That enables the YouTube algorithm to recognize the quality of these transmissions and recommend these transmissions to others, millions of those other YouTube subscribers. It's free. So why stop, huh? Why stop? Anyway, let's get the interview underway, because we're going to begin the process reviewing 2024. Okay. And what I'm heartened by in respect of 2024, that I've had some quite remarkable guests. Okay, we've had some technical challenges, don't misunderstand, but that's fair enough. There is constant investment being made in technology and the techniques that we use to transmit the Motivator Show. Okay, and as you can see, today's show is a good example of the improvement that has been made. Okay, and that investment will continue because we believe the messages are important. So I want to reiterate, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, but most certainly on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe or give us the thumbs up. Give us the thumbs up, and don't forget to press the notification button. And that way you help us to spread the word. Okay, please do so. But 2024 has been a most poignant year. Okay, we've transmitted at least 52, get that right, podcasts during this year, and some have been quite exceptional. Some gifted representative of the communities. Okay, I'm going to bring into the studio one such gifted person. Yeah, I refer to him being the great man. But he won't mind me saying this. He's a very, he doesn't mind. Here we are. Let me bring him in. You'll understand why I say so. Okay. And we'll begin that process of reviewing 2023. Let's hope the technology works for us first time. And here we go. Let's see if I bring him in. Oh, it worked. First time. Good morning. Can you hear us? Yeah.
Greetings, Demotivator.
Aye, Abu Akil. Pleasure.
Power.
Indeed. So, thank you for joining us this morning. It is an auspicious morning. It is the last Saturday for 2024. Mhm. And I felt that on this occasion, we should begin the process of reviewing what has happened in 2024. You know, like all good organizations, you should do that regular review. Mhm. So that you can improve, identify what we did well, not so well, or we can indeed identify where we should make the investment. Mhm. So you continue our growth. And we are very much growth-centered people, huh? Okay. So Abu Kill here, and I'm going to let him introduce himself in a moment, but I will say he's a trustee of the Global African Congress. And I cannot understate how important an organization that is. Okay. But he has many other gifts, many other qualities, which I'm going to what's me? I'm going to raise those qualities to the surface. A remarkable African, a par to the Africans we had on my last transmission from Burkina Faso, okay, and the likes of President Ibrahim Traoré, who set an example for all African states to follow. Okay. But so without further ado, I'm going to invite Abu just to introduce himself, just say a little bit about himself and what his source of inspiration might be. And after that, we'll then get into the review of the Demotivatorshow past 2024 podcast. But Abu, just introduce yourself and just say a little bit about yourself, just so we all can get to know you even better.
Okay, that's some massive introduction. I mean,
Oh,
and
they
yeah,
always say that. Have
really
you
is
noticed?
important. It is important that we celebrate ourselves and celebrate
Yes,
our lives. It really is
yes,
critical.
absolutely.
I'm a African who's from African parents who
Mm-hmm.
grew in the island of Zaimaka, also known as Jamaica.
Yeah.
They came here and grew me in an African household in
Mm-hmm.
South London. I, being a youth in South London, it was very important for me to hold my dignity. And in holding my dignity, I had an exemplary experience of being shown my history. I was quite fortunate in my parents. My parents were very, very focused, very dignified Africans who recognized that we are people of the soil. My father had a love of the soil and
Yes.
growing things and agriculture. My mother had a love of humanity and
Mm-hmm.
growing people. So I was very fortunate. Education was an important thing for them. So I had a library in my home. And sometimes our fortunes can also be misfortune. I mean, the history of the world and the nature of metaphysics is about the positive and the negative. We're always balancing the
Yes.
two. And so my good fortune was also a plague for me. My parents had a library in their home. And so everything that I spoke about, I did the research on, I
Mm-hmm.
studied.
Mm-hmm.
And so my father had a way that I would, as a child, you ask your father questions if you're fortunate enough to have a father. Again, I say I was very fortunate. I had
Mm-hmm.
my mother and father intact throughout my
Yes.
life. And
Yes.
so whenever I asked my father a question, his retort would be, go look it up. But we had
Yes.
Encyclopedia Britannica and he would send me to look it up. He wouldn't
Yes.
just give me the answer. I used to
That's
find it
right.
very annoying. Very, very annoying.
Yes.
But I'd indefinitely look it up, and when I looked it up, he'd
Yes.
come back to me a few days later when I may have forgotten my original question, and he'd ask me the question. What did you
Mm.
find out what you'd asked me
Mm-hmm.
about? So that's my kind
Yes.
of that's my background, my
Mm-hmm.
history. That you should ask for a short introduction. But I think that's a
That's
good
quite.
start.
It's good.
That's
It
a
is.
good prime.
That was a really good introduction, and indeed, I can't say I got it from my father, but certainly my mother. stimulated me that inquiry, the ability to inquire, where to inquire, how to research, how to study. Because often not taught how to study. You shouldn't just sit there for hours on end. And you don't realize that after 5 minutes, you actually close down. You're just going for the function, It's now how to pace yourself. Yeah, you're laughing. It's how to pace yourself, to take regular breaks, to hydrate yourself, to eat occasionally, pause, listen to music, in my case, for a few minutes and come back to the study. And that's been a part of my life. And here I am, a grand age, and these were good habits that we acquired as children that we take into adulthood.
Yes, and and I mean that fortune in terms of my own little journey. Part of and the difficult part of that journey is being in an environment with people who didn't have those kinds of prompts and advantages. Being in an environment where people were essentially just struggling to survive. Their day started with when me I go eat. In fact, before the day start, them I fight for blanket, them I fight for sheet with them brother and sister in a shared bed. And then when them wake up now, them I fight over who I go get the last piece of food with they in the cupboard or in the pot. So there's people who've been living a life where it's a day-to-day scramble for survival. So when you have a brother like me, I talk about the wider perspective. Then I look upon me and say, so you have time for gears, me not have time for gears, me I look something for Nyam right now. There's these two different perspectives, and people would say, look, you're being disingenuous to look deeper than the surface, because we don't have no time to look deeper than the surface. We just have to Nyam with there. We can't look beyond it and say, boy, you know what, this whole heap of fatty food with a whole heap of polyunsaturated fat, me just want yam. We are talking about all of them multi-syllable word there. Just stick to one syllable. We don't want 3-syllable words. So there's two levels of existence. There's people who are scrambling to survive, and people who have a little bit more time to look more widely. And when you talk about this thing about study, the thing about our mind and our well-being is you need that broader perspective for mental well-being and for physical well-being. You have to look and scan your environment. Because if you just look on one little degga thing, I look on a little spider way in the corner in the room and you're afraid of a spider, I realize you have a big wide world where the frog can yam the spider. And our next creature can yam the frog. we have to broaden our perspective.
That's nature, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Broadening our perspective is to have a sense of our wholeness.
You've said it. I tell the audience, the great man, he's speaking, and he's speaking the facts. Far too many people are, by virtue of circumstances, are in survival mode. Yeah, just in survival mode. But nevertheless, there is, of course, a strength in human beings. You don't have to be African, There's a strength in human beings in recognizing that there has to be a path out of this survival. What can we do better so we are transformed to survival to growth? So what I'm going to do, if I may, I'm going to play just a short part of the initial excerpt to this podcast, because it will set the tone, and I'll then refer to a number of podcasts you suggested to me that you want some commentary. Okay, I want the people to listen carefully to what is about to happen. Okay, because it's I deliberately used the term when describing this podcast, your lion mentality. You see him smiling? The great man is smiling. You see that inner strength, in other words. We all possess an inner strength. Even when faced with extreme adversity, poverty and deprivation, we possess that inner strength. I reference it being the lion mentality. Mhm. Vitally important. And never forget that inner strength, because the whole point of colonialism, neocolonialism, the whole point of, he's used this irrelevant term but appropriate, racism, is that you forget your inner strength, the lion, the lioness within you. Mhm. And you are thinking about, I don't have enough, therefore I must kill our fellow man. I must take from others just to survive. Yeah. They want to keep you in that mindset. The motivator says otherwise. This is where we translate our words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. Absolutely. Now I can raise my voice and let the energy roar. Okay. I just want you to watch and just listen to the first part of the intro video. Let that energy roar. There we go. Listen carefully. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours
Hear the
for
roar?
the taking.
You hear the roar?
Your lion mentality. The 2024 review show. Your lion mentality. The 2024 review show. My guest and I will review some of the 2024 inspirational podcast. The majority of our podcast has provided vital information. My guests were invited to share their knowledge and experiences because they have previously demonstrated genuine compassion and determination. They create safe, inclusive environments from which Demotivatorshow audience can, with confidence, accept the knowledge shared free from bias or misinformation. This is part one of the 2024 podcast review. We welcome your feedback and suggestions of specific podcasts you would like to see reviewed. There you are. That set the scene. And you heard the lion roaring. And you... Brilliant. Huh? Brilliant. Huh? Brilliant. Brilliant. That's the mentality that we need to approach the review of 2024. We are raise our consciousness above that survival mode, which I get, and it's absolutely. And now we're looking at and reviewing these podcasts from the point of view opportunities for growth. I know there are many who'll be watching this and will be astonished by that statement in itself. They'll say, "Well, but I don't feel that way." We will transform our mindset that you will feel that way. Praise Jah, Rastafari, bless Ashun. And there you go. Now we're moving forward. So, Brother Abu Akil, let's begin the process of reviewing some of your suggestions, okay? And I have them here. And it was fascinating when I read them. I thought, wow. I always remember that this is a man of many abilities, okay? And I read through your paper. I thought, wow, how am I going to cope with this? You notice how he started off? Is compassion. You notice what I said in my notes here? He displayed compassion. His first thought wasn't to simply display his obvious abilities. He displayed compassion, yeah, and empathy for those within, indeed, our families, indeed our communities, who have very little.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just to not to distract
It's
the
okay.
flow, but to hold the
It's
flow.
okay.
This whole Kwanzaa that today is Ujima,
Indeed,
the
yes.
collective work and responsibility. And
Mhm.
part of my being here today on your show is because you have maintained that connect, the critical connect that we must have with one another as humanity, as Africans, and that connect is the line, is the thread of our genius, of our success.
Yes.
Cooperating, being able to work together, that
Yes.
collective work and responsibility is where we get that neurological power.
Yes.
And I see through your shows that ability to engage with other people and see that genius in other people. I think one of the programs that I picked out that I hadn't watched, but I had to watch it as part of this process, is the one with the young people around the narratives.
Oh, yeah, the changing
It was
narrative.
really
Yes,
quite
yes,
powerful for me.
yes,
Was
yes.
hearing the youngers being able to express themselves. It's critical.
Happy
I mean,
Kwanzaa. Can I'm going to do this one right now, if I may. I want to
yeah.
play the Kwanzaa one because you started off, and I knew you would start it. You see, but so I don't want to go to the changing narrative just yet. I want to hold you back. We want to take the audience with us. But the Happy Kwanzaa video that I did is one that I want to share with you and the family right now. I anticipated you were ready to start with that reference point. You know? That's why I say to others, that's why I call him the great man. I call him the great man. You know, it might be a bit embarrassing saying that, but I refer to him being the great man. Okay, so let me just get it up for you because I want to just show you. Watch this one. There we go. We get the right screen up. Oh, there we are. I've got it here. Oh, there we get it on the correct position. Oh, I got the right position for it. Nope, not going to come back. Oh, let me come back here again. There we go. Get it right. I want to put it up because it's the Kwanzaa episode I did is one that I know will have profound implications for many of our peoples out there, many human beings out there, our peoples, many human beings out there who just need some guidance and support, you know, who need some compassion. There you go. I'm not sure why it's not coming up properly here. 1 second, I'll do one more time. It'd be nice if it worked the first time, wouldn't it, Martin? There we go. In fact, let me do this. This should overcome the problem. And I will now bring it up now. There we go. And why is this Kwanzaa important? Because Kwanzaa is a response to the idea that we have little, we don't have enough, and therefore we have to scrim and scrape. That's a mindset, a mentality that others want to keep us in. We are most defiant people. We defy the odds. Okay, I think that will have to do for the moment until I can work it out. But anyway, I'm going to play this. I'm going to play regardless. There we go. It is an annual celebration of African American culture, heritage and values. It lasts 7 days from the 26th of December until January the 1st. It is a way to honour African traditions and foster a sense of cultural pride amongst Africans worldwide. Demotivators Show, the internet's most inspirational podcast. It's the Motivator here. I know you're here to experience another inspirational podcast, and welcome to you, welcome. Can you help us out? We need to secure 100,000 new subscribers to the channel. Have you subscribed? Have you shared copies of links to this video with your friends, your network, the wider community? Help us to secure 100,000 new subscribers to our YouTube channel. The Motivator Show, the internet's most inspirational podcast. Kwanzaa Principles. It is inspired by African Harvest Festival. The word Kwanzaa is derived from the Swahili phrase Matunda ya or Kwanzaa, which means first fruits. Kwanzaa involves 7 symbols that represent the principles, such as the kinara or candle holder, the mishu saba or 7 candles, the nkeke or the mat. The fruits and cross symbolize the harvest and abundance. The unity cup, Kilumbi Cha Umoja, is used in ceremonies. Families and communities gather to light candles, discuss principles, share meals, exchange gifts, and reflect on African culture and history. The focus is on strengthening bonds and fostering mutual respect. Kwanzaa is a cultural and secular holiday, meaning people of any faith can celebrate it alongside their religious traditions, such as Christmas or Hanukkah. It is meaningful time for reflection, unity and celebration of African heritage and achievements. Kwanzaa principles are called the Ngusu Saba. The first day is Umoja. The second day is Kuri Kukuchia. The third day is Ujima. The fourth day is Ujama. The fifth day is Kuumba. The sixth day is Nia, and the seventh day is Imani. Umoja means unity, striving for and maintaining unity in the family, community, and nation. The second day of Kwanzaa is called the Kuri Kukuchia, which means self-determination, defining, naming, creating, and speaking for oneself. The third day of Kwanzaa is called Ujima, which means collective work and responsibility, building and maintaining the community together. The fourth day of Kwanzaa is called Ujama, which means cooperative economics, supporting businesses and economic efforts in the community. The fifth day of Kwanzaa is called Nia, or purpose, focusing on building and developing the community. The sixth day of Kwanzaa is called the Kuumba, or creativity, making the community more beautiful and beneficial. The seventh and last day of Kwanzaa is called Imani, or faith, believing in oneself, the community, and the struggle for justice and progress. I know you'd agree that was another inspirational experience. Now, before you go, don't forget to give us a like, comment, and press the bell icon, and most critically, subscribe. That tells YouTube that this was another inspirational experience. Well. There you are, sir. Let me put you back on the screen. I hope you would agree that was worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was necessary to go through each stage so it's clear to the audience what we mean when we say the words Kwanzaa. To explain it in lucid terms was right. I knew you would begin referencing Kwanzaa. Okay, there you are. Go ahead, yeah.
The beauty of this time is that this ability to digitally record these things means that anybody can access it. So there's no reason for anybody to say, I don't understand what Kwanzaa is about. They can look at the principles and see this is a secular thing, and it's about essentially development of yourself as a human being, and using the winter solstice as a period for doing that.
Yes,
that's what it boils down to, and you put it in a nutshell there. There's some of the detailing around these words that people may struggle with, but the fundamental principles are what really matter. It's the principles that matter, and they come over very clearly.
Thank you very much.
Outline.
Thank you. So, if I may now, I'm going to first of all use your suggested reviews as the my starting point, and it was interesting that in your suggested review, you wanted to address the issue of Black maternal death scandal, and of course, what we mean, of course, by that, just so it's clear by the audience, and we'll play some references to it in a few moments, is of course the numbers of our women who experience complications during pregnancy, or indeed complications immediately after pregnancy, and the numbers who not only experience severe complications, who die as a result of going through what is the most natural thing in the world, that is a woman being pregnant. And the figures are abnormally high, particularly for women of African heritage. And it's a real concern. The podcast in respect of this particular issue was a podcast focused on my borough of Southwark here in London. And one of our more gifted counsellors here, who herself had been through a pregnancy to which she reflects upon, had cause for concern. If you use that word, cause for concern. But she recognised that the issues that were raised when she was pregnant all those years ago are the same today. Now she's in a position where she can raise the issue in public forums and have direct communications with those in the NHS responsible for maternity services. So first of all, so that's the context for the podcast. Why did you bring it up as being a podcast that you would like us to look at in terms of a review? Why do you bring it up?
For me, when we're reviewing, we have to have some kind of a tool for analysis.
Yes.
So when you're reviewing a business, you'll do strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. That's one model. The model that I've kind of outlined for this review is to look at a couple of themes around the African experience. One is sovereignty, another is statecraft and colonialism, another is strategic legislation or state legislation, another is reparations, and another is African self-governance. So those are the lenses that I'm looking through. And the first one around sovereignty. Sovereignty is your ability to reproduce. At the heart of it is your ability to reproduce yourself.
Sorry, my brother. I want you to slow down.
Okay.
Because you and I, we can get into a sort of intellectual mode. Want to make sure what you're saying is accessible by all. Okay, because this is the feedback I'm receiving that we are all very able, but we want to make sure what you. So I'm going to ask you just to repeat what you say slower, and give explanations, because there's some words you've used. I know there's some people that would not find it difficult to understand fully. Because I know what you mean, but I just want you to be very clear what is meant, so that we take the entire audience with us. Go ahead.
Thank you for that. And so
pleasure.
In terms of maternal health care, so my point is that when we're looking at anything, we need a structure, just like your body needs a structure. If we didn't have a backbone, if we didn't have bones, we'd be like jellyfish flopping around on the floor. So the fact that we can sit up, and I may slouch a little bit, but the fact that we can sit up is because we've got a structure, our skeletal structure. And so in doing the review, there are different kinds of structures that one might use. So a classical structure for a business would be a SWOT analysis, which is strengths. SWOT is an acronym: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you look at the strengths of what you're doing over the year. Then you look at your weaknesses of what you've done over the year. Then you look at the opportunities going forward, and then you look at the threats. So you're balancing up the positives and the negatives and seeing how you can navigate through the positives and the negatives to set your own direction. So that's essentially what a structure is about and what a framework is about. So the framework that I've put together for this review, because Demotivator had asked me to look at it, and I know I don't get up early on Saturday mornings like others and do the washing and cooking. My past that's the we sleep in. However, I had to look at the programs and find a way of doing a review. So
Yes.
My model for this review, another word for this is matrix, a framework, a matrix, you know. And so my frame of reference as a Pan-Africanist is number one, sovereignty. So what programs looked at sovereignty? Number two, statecraft and colonialism. Number three, state legislation, the laws that confine us. And then looking at reparations, how to repair the damage that's been done to us as African people.
Yes.
And then African self-governance. So that's the frame of reference for me. And so the first part of it, maternal, or in that box of sovereignty, you have to be born.
Demotivatorshow. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
So in that first part, it's about what does sovereignty mean? And critical to your sovereignty is being born. I mean, if you're not born, then your sovereignty, you do have a sovereignty as part of your nation, but your nation, if you have a physical manifestation, for debut and represent in this domain.
Yes.
So the birthing process is critical to our sovereignty. And the birthing process determines very much whether we're going to survive or not, because the sperm might not even swim as far as the egg. And if the sperm does reach as far as the egg, what was the quality of the sperm? What was the quality of the egg? And then what is the quality of the environment that that egg and that sperm that have combined together? What is the quality of that environment in the mother's womb over that period of months of gestation? And then once the child is born, what is the quality of the birthing process? What is the quality of their life up to the age of 2? You know, and so that whole thing about maternal health care is critical to our sovereignty.
Okay. And thank you for that. You've created a sort of framework, okay. And what I now need to get from you is some reaction to the podcast. In fact, if I may, Abu, I'm going to play a part of the intro video to that particular podcast, okay? It will provide some context and hopefully help for us to clarify what we're doing. Hopefully, again, not sure why it's not completely lining up, but there you are. There's some great minds in this one. I'll get it worked out in a moment. There we go. I'm going to start it now. There we go. Let's get this right. For the taking. Your liar mentality. The 2024 review show. Southern Council's Maternity Commission evidence. Severe maternal morbidity. Often referred to as near miss or near death. A study from 2014 shows that compared to white European women, Black African women are 83% more likely and Black Caribbean women are 80% more likely to suffer a near death whilst pregnant. Southern Council's Maternity Commission evidence. Systematic racism within the UK maternity care. Systematic racism within the UK maternity care is risking the safety of people from Black, Asian and mixed ethnicity backgrounds, often with devastating consequences, according to a report by the childbirth charity Birthright. The Guardian newspaper article on the 23rd of May, 2022. Southern Council's Maternity Commission evidence. Demographics and wider determinant of health. The average age of Southern mothers in 2022 was around 33 years old, compared to 30.9 years old in England and Wales. Mothers over the age of 35 are at risk of complications during pregnancy and childbirth. Examples: preeclampsia, miscarriages, gestational diabetes, maternal mortality. Babies of older mothers face high risk of high or low birth weight, stillbirth, preterm births, and chromosomal abnormalities. Southwark Council's Maternity Commission's evidence, staffing and staffing retention. Midwives and representatives from the maternity services workforce reported feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, exhausted and unsupported due to consistent staff shortages. Representatives emphasised the negative impact of understaffing on quality of care, frequently over the course of the evidence-gathering meeting. Results from the online survey showed that 31% of staff members felt that they had the capacity to deliver perinatal care to the highest standard. Of those who felt they could not, the main reasons were focused on staffing, with staffing reporting lone working when they should have been delivering care in a team of up to 4 staff members, as there was not enough staff or resources to provide the necessary care. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your lion mentality. The 2024 review show. And there you have it. Let me now just get this back to where we should be. There you have it. So that's the context which you reviewed, and that was a short excerpt. It's information packed, of course, and I know there are thousands of women and indeed men who responded to the detail contained in that particular podcast. It was information rich, and as you know, we had on subsequent podcasts, we had both the co-chairs of the commission, both Councillor Evelyn Akoto and indeed Professor Donna Kinnair. Okay? And they were able to provide real substance, real detail around this subject and how they're seeking to work in collaboration with their counterparts in the NHS, or what is the National Health Service here in Britain, to improve maternity care. Okay, as I said, it was a truly an information-full podcast. It provided clear overviews and detail where was necessary, but the experience was profound. And what was important as part of that those presentations, to provide not simply anecdotal evidence, to which Councillor Evelyn Koto could attest to, and indeed I could attest to some extent, of course. It was the objective investigations being carried out by other persons, other agencies, whether it be the local press or the national press, or indeed TV. Can you imagine TV as being a mover for politicians and public services to respond to the concerns that are out there in the community? It was and remains a powerful podcast, and thank you for giving light to it. You talked about sovereignty in the context of us taking control. Okay. I want you to elaborate a little more on that one. I want to make sure we've understood what you mean by that, because clearly this commission is started and led by Councillor Koto and Professor Donna Kinnair, are led by 2 African women who are convicted or completely understand that it's not enough to stand by and watch, but actually to get involved, to engage those who are delivering the services, so those services will be better. They'll be back in a year's time to report on progression. But what did you mean by sovereignty? Just so we're clear about it. Go ahead.
So for me, sovereignty is recognizing that we have a right as human beings on this planet to exist.
Absolutely.
And having that right to exist on this planet means that we should be able to not to be born Because that's the first point.
Yes.
And having been born,
We laugh. Forgive me, we laugh. But it's so serious. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Our wives, our girlfriends, the most significant person in our lives is pregnant. And we're concerned about the professionals who are delivering those maternity services not feeling or able to give the best quality care to our most significant other. That's
and
profound, isn't it?
it
Profound.
is.
Please
And
go
there's
ahead.
the other part of it, which is about we first have a right to be born, and we have
Mm-hmm.
a right to be born within the conditions
Mm.
that have been set
Yes.
by nature over
Yes.
hundreds of thousands of years,
Yes.
and conditions that have been set by African people over
Yes.
hundreds and thousands of years of
Mm.
being able to have food. We've
Yes.
developed agriculture,
Yes.
clothing, and
Yes.
shelter,
Yes.
architecture, and to be
Yes.
able to connect with other people in a way that our being is enhanced. And
Absolutely.
so, at the
Absolutely.
point that you've got a crisis around the birthing process, we
Mm-hmm.
have to say there are compromises to human sovereignty. And where
Yes.
those compromises to human sovereignty disproportionately
Yes.
impact on particular segments of the population,
Yes.
and that disproportionality. So the stat that I picked up from the presentation,
Yes.
that the average age of childbirth
Yes.
in Southwark
Mm-hmm.
is older than the national average. I think the national
Okay.
average is around 30,
13.
but
That's
in
right.
Southwark it's 33.
Yes.
It's a very interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
And for
Yes.
me, here's where it lies. And people, look, I've been looking at public health my entire life, so I've got some insights around it that don't converge with conventional wisdom.
Okay. All
So
right.
bear with me.
Okay.
So when we're looking at that age difference, and you've got researchers looking at the age difference and saying, look, you've got greater vulnerability if you're having children at an older age.
Yes.
Because the body, and I'm going to put it in simple terms, the body's not as
Yes.
flexible when you're
Indeed.
aging. You know,
Indeed.
as you age, the body gets stiffer and stiffer and stiffer. And
Yes.
you really
Yes.
do need that flexibility in childbirth. Every sinew's being stretched out.
Mm-hmm.
So you need that flexibility. So the aging process, if you're older, but when you think about, and so for me, what are the factors that dictate that? And one of the factors that dictate that, I think, growing up in the UK, one of the
Mm-hmm.
criteria that, you know, that little island that my family came from is a little
Mm-hmm.
island where there are some very profound standards. And one of the profound
Yes.
standards is that you don't have children until you have education,
Oh yeah.
a steady
Yeah.
income,
Yeah.
a house, and you
Mm-hmm.
get married.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the
Mm-hmm.
basic. I mean,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
from in the
Yeah.
60s, you know, from the Caribbean, those were the standards.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a steady income
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have a house
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have a wife or a husband,
Mm-hmm.
you're not in the marketplace for
Yes.
having children.
Yeah.
The thing about those criteria in the UK is you reach 20 and you don't have a job in
No.
England. You coming up in the 1980s, we got mass unemployment. So I'm from a generation where most of the man them you look around, them not no work.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
the woman them are one little service industry
Mm.
job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
so you're out of the production line
Mm-hmm.
from our kind of principled basis. You're
Mm-hmm.
not in the market to have children.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to getting a house, no, you can't get a house if you don't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to get married neither because nobody now give them daughter to you if
No.
you're not work. You're
Mm-hmm.
worthless boy.
Mm-hmm.
So we were out of the we were out of the value chain in terms of our own standards. And so we have a whole population of people, a whole cohort of people in the UK who were born in this state of, I'm going to use the term, because this dirty term they bought, them have a word with them called illegitimate. I'm moving around because I don't want the wrong things in the camera lens.
It's okay, yes.
So we come into a space where we're already illegitimate.
Okay.
You're
just to pause there. Because let's pause there. Because I think you're right in terms of that narrative. But of course, nature says otherwise. A woman in her prime, between the ages of what? I think it's around 16 to what, 26, 27 or so? She's in her prime. After that, you're approaching geriatric pregnancy, and if you're after 35, then it's extremely very dangerous to be pregnant. There you are.
Exactly.
There you are.
Exactly.
So we're out of kilter at the moment. Look, my children are finding it extremely difficult to buy property now. Can you imagine? When we were their age, it took maybe twice, possibly 3 times our income. Now it's 7, 8, 9 times their income. Ridiculous. Yes. And that's having a direct adverse effect on the normal coupling, the normal economics that impact upon our community. And what you're highlighting is really a powerful point, is highlighting that this new government, he says, forgive me, the new government has got to address these fundamental issues, because if a young person is unable to buy property, if a young person cannot gain suitable employment that enables them to gain the property, if a young person is feeling oppressed, financially, morally oppressed, they're not going to operate as we did when we were young people.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, we have the situation we have today, where women are delaying having babies until much older, dangerously late. Okay, and Professor Donna Kinner pointed that out in her presentation to us. And secondly, there's a tendency, because the bodies are older, we develop, in some cases, poor lifestyle habits, that there's a series of co-condition, I think you professionals call it co-conditions, such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and other conditions, would then impact upon the quality of our future life, and indeed can negatively impact on pregnancy. Over to you.
And again, I mean, for human society, and these are much more fundamental questions for human society. So I think, and for the African world, we as African people are really indicators of what the direction of humanity is. And where you find that we're being treated, or we're experiencing sovereignty in a way that compromises our humanity, it compromises everybody's humanity. And if we're looking at human development,
forgive me, I need you to say that again, because hold on before you say it, because often, because there are many who will watch these podcasts and believe that these are issues that only affect people of African descent. But I've lived in this country virtually my entire life. I know English people extremely well. I know Welsh people very well. I know Scottish people very well, Irish people very well. I've been brought up amongst them. Okay, and many have been sold a lie, propaganda, as a result of the latter-day colonial past of Britain, that somehow they're better and somehow their conditions are better, and therefore they've got to hang on to it and not let anyone share it, otherwise they will have low positions. But actually, the majority of English, Scottish, Welsh, Irish people I encounter are just ordinary people on ordinary salaries and are affected by the same issues that we are affected. Okay, and I'm not going to say any less. But what you're describing is we are a bellwether of what is to come for them. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so we're the primary. We are indicators of the human condition, and you compromise our humanity, you compromise everybody's humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, when you see things are happening to us with maternity services in Southwark,
Mm-hmm.
we need to step back and look at what is happening with the reproductive process globally, because that's just a spotlight on something. And the thing about the UK, the UK is actually, like, for men, it, in terms of the state, the modern state, the 21st century state, the UK is actually a template.
It is.
And around the world, the reason why the English language is spoken so widely is because of its colonial reach and because of its template type status.
Yes.
So when you're looking at the experience of Africans in Southwark, it is an indicator of how institutions, and I'll come back to that SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yes.
The strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that we see in maternity services in Southwark affect the whole world. And if we're talking about the time that a woman and a man conceive, and we're looking at that time being delayed later and later and later, that is as a consequence of the way that human culture has been evolving.
Yes.
So we need to recognize that we need to reorientate our institutional lives. And the challenge for us as Africans is that we're marginalized so much from institutional power and policy that we're often trying to fit into something that is, God, I'm struggling to, I don't want to use the wrong word. That no word.
But I'm going to say to that, though. I am going to say to that. And that's why I deliberately noted this is a lion mentality. I assert to you that the cage is wide open. And often, the lion, this great, is incredibly strong and powerful being, sits there in the cage and looking, gazing at the open gate and wondering, why is it open? It's for me. So I'm going to just draw you back a bit because you're that.
I'm coming.
No, I'm going to draw you because I want to now draw you back because, of course, the other podcast you focused on, the more recent one, is of course the change narrative. If I take you onto that one now, because it was important because you chose it, and it was quite poignant. You place the change narrative and the maternity commission investigation in the same category. Interesting psychology, I thought. And I know that the audience are going to appreciate this. And if I may, with your permission, my brethren, is to play just 2 minutes of the intro video. It will provide some context for those who didn't watch it. Naughty you. And you should watch it. And I'll put a reference to it on YouTube and link directly to that podcast so you can review it for yourselves. But I want to play part of the intro video because it is powerful, even if saved myself, but it provides some insight as to the great man's thinking and why he references as part of his presentation. I'm just going to bring it up on my screen. One moment. Demotivatorshow. Hold on just a second. Put it on the right position here, and then I'm going to link it to you. Don't you worry. Give me a moment. There we go. And I'm going to do this. There we go. And let's get this right. There we go. And last adjustment. There we go. Right. There we go. And it's coming up now. I'm sorry I have to do it this way, but it's been done. And it goes. Ready for it. Listen keenly, everyone. Listen keenly. The internet's most inspirational podcast. Every Saturday morning from 8 to 10 a.m. Look Like Me Book Challenge. Change the narrative. Aspiring young authors' impact on United Kingdom literature. Fairy tales, anthologies, and superhero stories. Look Like Me Book Challenge. Change the narrative. Aspiring young authors' impact on UK literature. Black, Asian, minority ethnics are not properly represented in children's books. Last year, 9,115 children's books were published in the United Kingdom, but only 391 of these, 4%, featured a Black, Asian, minority ethnic character. Only 1% of these books included a Black, Asian, minority ethnic as the main character. In reality, 32% of school children in England come from a Black, Asian, minority ethnic background. So this means most of the books read aren't properly representing the children in United Kingdom. These figures all come from a new study by a charity called the Centre for Literacy in Primary Education. Look Like Me Book Challenge. Change the narrative. Aspiring young authors' impact on United Kingdom literature. Black, Asian, minority ethnics are not properly represented in children's books. The Book Trust is United Kingdom's largest children's reading charity, with a history that stretches back over 100 years. The Book Trust provides support to the Waterstones Children's Laureate, which is in its 25th year. The Waterstones Children's Laureate is the foremost representative of children's literature awarded biennially to a renowned writer or illustrator in recognition of exceptional talent. This prestigious role celebrates creativity and storytelling, promotes vital importance of reading and children's literature, and champions the right of every child to enjoy a lifetime enriched with books and stories. Each laureate brings their own passion and creativity to their tenure. Look Like Me Book Challenge. Change the narrative. Aspiring young authors' impact on United Kingdom literature. Black, Asian, minority ethnics are not properly represented in children's book. Since the Children's Laureate Champion started in 1999, only 2 winners are from a Black, Asian, minority ethnic background. The Inclusive Book for Children Excluded Voices report identified only 568 books published in United Kingdom from 2014 to 2023 for children under 10 containing main characters from minority ethnicities or were disabled or neurodivergent. The same report also found that the picture book stories with an ambiguously black or brown main characters were dominated by white authors and illustrators who contributed 83% of such books. The picture was starker for books for babies and toddlers, where 90% of those featuring prominent characters of colour and disabled characters were by white, non-disabled authors and illustrators. Well, I think that particular episode really speaks for itself, doesn't it, really? The figures are frighteningly uncomfortable. I have to say, they are very uncomfortable. Can you imagine for toddlers, more than 90% of the books do not reflect the clear numbers of children. A third of babies, young people in schools, in British schools and colleges, are possess a. I'm going to use the term majority world ethnic background. Yeah.
And you know, and you
Go
know, the
ahead.
thing
Yes.
is, this point about our worldview, and our worldview is a consequence of
Yeah.
the things that we're exposed to in our mind's eye, the images
Yes.
that we see, the words that we hear.
Yes.
And for young people, if the only world that they see and hear is one where their mother and father and themselves are excluded, what does that do to their self-perception? What does that do to their sovereignty?
Indeed.
Which is that's my connect, that your
Yes.
sovereignty is about how you perceive yourself.
That's
And
right.
if I perceive myself as, boy, look how me black and ugly, then
Hmm.
how it ever going on my life?
This is true. The psychological damage is profound.
Mm,
I'm preparing a show to look at mental health in our communities. Okay, and the figures are terrifying. I won't go into it now. There's a discussion for now, but the figures are terrifying. And it's damaging, having profound impact on Great Britain PLC as an economic power. It's a fault line that, honestly, all politicians, regardless of your political color, cannot tolerate, because it is seeping over into all communities.
yeah.
We are but simply a bellwether community, a bellwether
You know,
community.
on that
Mhm,
point, and I mean,
mhm,
and I didn't the whole thing about sovereignty. I'm saying like this structuring of
mhm,
my review kind of frame of reference and the
mhm.
sovereignty and looking at
Yeah.
what is a storyline that's being told to young people.
Yes.
You know, you're born. So
Mhm,
if you're fortunate enough to be born and survive past the age of 5, because,
mhm.
you know, mortality rates for people from lower socioeconomic classes are
There you
higher
go. Yep.
than
Yep.
mortality rates for everybody else. And we happen to be concentrated in that lower socioeconomic strata. And
Can
so
I just correct you there? I know that's a
I'm going to
narrative.
put the words in. Oh, let me put the simplify. Let me
Okay.
simplify
Okay.
it.
Okay.
So if you're looking at the structure of society, you've got people who have a lower income,
Hmm.
have poorer life chances.
Yes.
So if you have
Regardless of
less
ethnicity,
money,
regardless
you
of
eat
ethnicity,
lower
let's make it
quality food.
clear. Yeah,
Yeah,
forgive me for saying this. Regardless of ethnicity, and the
yes,
numbers of traditional English, Scotch, Welsh, and Irish people who fall within that category, it has not
yes.
declined over the past 14 years, it has expanded
That's
over the
right.
past 14
That's right.
years. Go
That's
ahead. Go
right.
ahead. Hmm.
That's right. So
Hmm.
in the UK, we've got 66 million people.
Oh,
And of
God,
those
yes.
66 million people, the vast majority don't own a house of their own.
No,
Whatever the
no.
TV is telling you, they don't own a house of their own. They live in social housing.
Hmm.
Of that majority of people, they're totally dependent on state services.
Yes.
That doesn't mean you're totally dependent on the welfare state insofar as health services,
Hmm.
insofar as education services.
Hmm.
And so, as poorer people in the state,
They become
you
poorer over time.
need
Yes.
a
Yes.
redistributive structure that
Yes.
ensures you have adequate food
Hmm.
and adequate shelter.
Hmm.
Now, the people who are overrepresented in those people who don't have adequate food and adequate shelter are people who experience this thing called racism.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Our experience as African people is predominantly as a consequence of institutional practices
Hmm.
that give us a lower share of global equity. We get less from the health service, from the education system, from the state in general. We get a poorer deal.
There you go.
That's the
And
challenge of sovereignty. And
absolutely.
at the point that we recognize our sovereignty, as the motivator said, we can't just lie back and say, as a lion, and make them say, oh, you can only get that from the NHS, you can only get that from housing, you can only get that. No, if I'm living in a place where one of the things that I'm seeing in the UK, sorry to digress, but this is about sovereignty.
I'll let you digress for a little while.
And quality of life.
Yes.
And a critical thing around poverty of life, something I've noticed over the past few months, is that local authorities have been under so much financial pressure that there are little snips and cuts that have been made.
Yes.
One of the snips and cuts that I've seen in Greenwich and Lewisham is bin collections. That used to happen on a weekly basis, now happen on a fortnightly basis. And in Greenwich, it happened that we never bother get it for about 3 weeks, and then just like a day or so before Christmas, bam, them collect the bin, but them only partially collect the bin then. So we're
Can I just ask you to pause there? Because you are right that there is a sociological component to this and a race component, without a shadow of a doubt. Okay, but we are focusing currently on the deficit, and we'll continue on this theme for a little while longer. But I want to get on to the other component, which is actually a larger proportion of our experience, but doesn't receive as much attention or publicity, and that is the growth component. That's why it's the lion mentality. And yes, Abu Akil, we're going to get onto that true lion mentality. Can I please just take us over to maybe a subject I want to tackle right now, and that's of course the Windrush scandal. That you would have observed as there's a series of podcasts which focused on the Windrush scandal. Okay, I want to give a big shout out to Anthony Brown, okay, who has been leading the charge to persuade all politicians and others, the whole community, we need a Windrush Act to enact, to put embed in law the rights of the Windrush generations and their descendants. Okay, after all, it was the Act of Parliament that changed our condition. Okay, and therefore it's Parliament that must correct that injustice. Okay. And I also want to make sure it's understood, going back to what you said a moment ago, and I should have said it, sorry, in referring to the changed narrative. Okay, I know you started to talk about bin and so on, but just to give a big thumbs up to Winsome, who leads the change narrative CIC. I want to give a big thumbs up to her and recognise her outstanding work and the work with those young people who were excellent example of the growth, the lion mentality in our community. Okay, in the face of adversity, they are growing. There's growth for them. Praise be, praise be. But I want to just now go back to this issue of the Windrush and the Windrush scandal. And with your permission, just spend 2 minutes just playing a section of the intro video, because it does provide some contact, which I believe we should fully appreciate. And
can I add a little something there?
Of course you can, of course.
But I think the point about, and it is that crossover from sovereignty to statecraft. And here we are in statecraft and colonialism. This is where this Windrush phenomena fits in. Statecraft.
Absolutely right. Yes, statecraft. Well said, well said. So I'm now not sure why it keeps doing this, but never mind. We will cope with it for the moment. I'm now going to play this video, because just 2 minutes of it, the intro video to the horrendous Windrush scandal. Success is ours for the taking. Absolutely. Your lion mentality. The 2024 review show. Arise. Anthony Brown's story. In the summer of 1982, Anthony Brown, then 21, was hoping for an acceptance letter for a place to study law in London. He'd worked hard for his A-levels in computing, maths, physics at North Trafford College in Manchester and was full of energy and idealism. Instead, he received a letter from the Home Office telling him he was in the UK illegally and needed to report to Manchester Airport for deportation. Brown, who was born in Jamaica but moved to England as aged 6 years old in 1967, had been classified as an immigration offender. Anthony Brown's story. Many people in Brown's position were repatriated, but his case was taken up by a group of campaigners who were determined to prevent his removal from the United Kingdom, launching what became known as the Anthony Brown Anti-Deportation Campaign. Professor Gus John, then a community activist and now an academic and an equalities campaigner, helped coordinate it. Professor Gus John said, "The system was barbaric." Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. And yes, let me just bring that off now. I needed to just play that intro to that particular podcast because it sets the scene, doesn't it? It perfectly sets the scene, okay? There's much more to be said, but I'm just conscious that as I started to get involved in, it was amazing what has happened in 2024. Amazing, absolutely amazing. But yeah, that's the start of his story. We can get on the fight back. He now has a British passport. I say again, he now has a British passport. Okay, his Britishness could not be taken away from him, even as a result of a subsequent act of Parliament. Okay, now I bring it up because, of course, you talk about sovereignty, and I recognise that, because that's about being able to stand on your own 2 feet and control. I assert we have sovereignty, but of course, the lying mindset is in so many members of our community is suppressed. So you're more like kittens, yeah. So lions and cats, kittens, and lions or lion cubs are the same species. Okay. So we recognize cats and kittens, yeah. We recognize them, nice cuddly things. We most certainly wouldn't want to cuddle and do that same behavior with lions. It is a mindset. It is a mindset. The whole purpose of the Motivator Show is that we raise consciousness, provide useful information, empowering information that you can act upon. Why, of course, the strapline for every podcast is success is ours for the taking. Because ultimately, it is a mindset. We have the genius. We have the ability to overcome any adversity. And what is happening in respect of the Windrush scandal, which talks to racism in Parliament, in political parties, dare I say it, the political party that I am affiliated to. Because clearly, within that podcast, I noted that Harold Wilson was party to enacting a law which seriously affected the Windrush generation. And these were people like my parents who were asked to come to Britain to take up those jobs. Tens of thousands of jobs could not be filled by locals because there was not enough of them. So they went to the Caribbean and Africa. Oh yeah, okay. The Caribbean was struggling. It needed those people. But the wage levels and attractiveness, the propaganda was so powerful that our parents, I say our parents, were attracted to come to Britain and work in those mainly public services, but increasingly broader field, to build Britain. Theresa May admitted that they're British. Yep, but didn't take the necessary action to ensure that those British-born and their descendants were treated with respect. It was always lip talk. I recall when she gave the speech to the Caribbean Heads of Government Conference, where she made it clear that the change in the laws were not actually targeting people of the Commonwealth, but were seeking to prevent illegal immigration. But what she failed to do, you're laughing, what she failed to do is point out to those heads of government that actually their status, their resident status has changed as a result of an act of parliament. And we've changed the law in such a way that those people were vulnerable to subsequent acts of parliament to tightening the immigration rules, so that you need to demonstrate that you are a British citizen, even to access the National Health Service, public services, or to get a job, or even to get a home. You got to prove that you're British. But the Acts of Parliament didn't give those people the paperwork to demonstrate their Britishness. Now, all the objective observers from across the world, from the United Nations onwards, have all said that clear example of institutionalized racism of the highest order. You cannot take away a person's citizenship or sovereignty, as you may describe. That's illegal. That's against international law. Britain did so. I'm extremely hopeful that the new government has heard these messages, because these are profound messages, and will respond appropriately. I would give a thumbs up to Anthony Brown, who's leading the charge to enact a Windrush Act to protect the rights of those who are affected by past legislation by Parliament. I want to give a thumbs up to the Windrush National Organisations and all those who are involved in that organisation for leading the charge to ensure that this issue never leaves the public consciousness. And I also want to give a thumbs up to the many MPs and other public representatives who recognise the injustice and have joined with us so that this injustice can be corrected. But this has only been possible, I assert, Abu, because of the lion mentality. We will never be defeated. We'll never be downtrodden. And we'll never allow ourselves to be so emasculated that we are hopeless, helpless. We are not helpless, and we're not hopeless. We are absolutely determined and focused people. Praise Jah, Rastafari. Any comment you might have?
Yeah, this whole thing around, and I think it's really poignant, the thing about Anthony's experience. You know, you got a university, you're studying to do your A-levels, you've gone through some battles. And then all of a sudden them take the rug from under your foot and you're gone.
Yes.
The whole journey changes. And I think, you know, this thing about the lion becoming a kitten.
Yes.
And you know, you know, and let me paint the scenario. And this is the kind of experience of statecraft and our experience of statecraft. And I'm going to come back to that bin bit because I think it's kind of
we don't go too far though. Don't go too far. Yeah, don't go too far.
Don't go too far. I think the thing about, you know, one day, like let me give another example. You've got these qualifications. You say, look, you know what, I'm going to better and get this qualification. Yeah, I'm going to get this degree.
Absolutely.
You spend 4 years killing up yourself to get this degree when everybody else is having partying and making money and having a bit of a good time, or pretending to be having a good time, maybe. Pretending to have a good time. And you just suffer with the books and thing and completing assignments, and you got through and you get the piece of paper now. And you go for these job interviews. And they say, no, you're not qualified. You don't have the experience. You're not good enough. You know, and that's kind of... And we've all experienced it as African people. And it draws your teeth them out one by one. You know, like Anthony, just get him ear level. Ear level is not an easy thing to do,
No.
right? GCSEs is not an easy thing to do. You
Mhm.
have to dedicate yourself. You have to put in the
Yes.
time. And
Yes.
after you put in this time and effort, and to come out with nothing, where them say you's nobody. You're not even supposed to stay in the country.
Yeah, it is
It's
profound. If I may, Abu, if I may, it is profound. Okay, and whilst I see great change since we were youngsters, great change, but certainly across Britain, there has been great change, significant improvement. There are still pockets of injustice, but I want to make it clear, though. I want to make it clear. My experience of Britain in this regard is that those who believe themselves to be superior, those who believe themselves to have additional agency, more equal than others, okay, they will most certainly do those, behave in that manner to those who don't immediately look at to share the same skin tone. Okay, that's true. But just like the police forces, okay, who were targeting myself and others when we were teenagers, targeting, you know, you could walk on the street and be stopped and ask for who you are and so on, as if you're in a police state, not because you're involved in any criminality, but because they perceive you, because of the propaganda. Those men and women of the police force, as in the NHS, I believe, and I'm sure who lead companies in the UK, they've been exposed to a lifetime of negative propaganda by a group of people, a small group of people here in Britain, who want to control the minds of the masses. And in doing so, controlling them, the masses will therefore view people who don't have a different skin tone as being as being the danger, the reason for their ill, as opposed to the iniquitous situation we have here in Britain. That is, and give me this example. If there was a 1% reduction in income tax, the group of people who would most benefit are those who are in higher income. The bulk of British wealth is in the hands of around 7 or 8% of the people. I repeat, the bulk of wealth here in Britain is in the hands of around 7 to 8% of the people. They're worth tens of billions, and in the case of the royal family, trillions of pounds, because they've been around for hundreds of years, and it's in the king's or the monarch's name that our ancestors were taken from Africa to the Caribbean and to the Americas, and the monarch got a cut of all the profit, and they've been gaining the profit, and they had that cut for hundreds of years. So a pound 400 years ago is equivalent to around 10 or 15 million pounds. But then if you had £100,000 400 years ago, it's equivalent to many trillions of pounds in today's money. Once you use those comparisons, that language, most people could understand the profound injustice in the society as we have it configured today. And they therefore can see themselves as being as much victim of social manipulation as it is our own people, African peoples, are as victims of this social manipulation. But actually, with the lion mentality, addressing these issues with a lion mentality, we together can effect the changes that will create a more wholesome, equal British society. Please,
Yes,
Jack,
man.
go
I
ahead.
think I think this point about acknowledging what actually is in terms of,
Yes,
like a review process, a SWOT,
yes,
what's
yes,
actually happening. And I think that point about institutionalization of inequality and that experience of people being treated differently
yes,
within state legislature, which is what
yes,
this Windrush Act is about. And I'll take the
yes.
quote from the program, and I'm going to use the quote from the report done by the independent research, the
Oh,
historical roots of the
yes,
Windrush scandal,
absolutely,
because you
yes.
quoted it, and I'm
Powerful,
gonna
powerful,
I
yes.
put the quote out, which it says, look, citizenship law in
Yes,
Britain since 1948 affected black people in the UK differently than other racial and ethnic groups. That's the context of state legislature in the UK, that everything they do in policy has impacted on us differently.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so,
It was
in terms
deliberate,
of
though.
that
It was deliberate.
page,
It was deliberate. Yes.
yes.
Mhm. Yes.
When I looked, I first saw the report flashed up. It was in a WhatsApp group, and when I saw it, I thought, why are people? This is just old stale news. I've known this. I've known about this immigration legislation, etc., etc. And then when I looked at it, I thought, oh, crikey! The Home Office has got the report on file, taken ownership of the
Yes.
report, even though they might hide
Yes.
it in our corner and no one nobody look on it. But I realized that, like, you know, my undergraduate
Demotivatorshow. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to stop that now. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I
I'm
realized
going
that
to
my
find.
undergraduate essays that I did 30 years ago, and I've been trying to communicate to people for the past 30 years, are now kind of mainstreamed insofar as recognizing, but we still have a challenge.
Yes.
That there's a denial that institutionalized racism exists. We're still in a place of denial. And that place of denial has been consistent. It's part of the race game. Sorry, can I bring something in here? Because I think,
of course you can.
One of my fundamental analyses is around what this racism thing is. And again, it isn't with the main thread. It's not classical definitions. It's what I've come to be able to have a clarity in my own mind and a clarity in my own practice. So for me, racism is an ideology. An ideology is a set of ideas that are set in material practice.
Yes.
It's not just the ideas, it's the ideas in the context of material practice. And the ideology of racism says that there's a hierarchy of people. And in that hierarchy of people, you have this socially constructed idea of people called white, who are at the top. And you have this socially constructed idea of people who are called black at the bottom. And so there's a spectrum. So you can either be closer to white, which is the good bit, the fair bit, or closer to black, which is the bad bit. That's the ideology of racism. That we operate on this ideological spectrum of value of black and white. Black being bad, white is good. That's what racism is as an ideology.
Can I just ask you to pause there, because you're absolutely right. That is absolutely the correct context. And I'm going to keep emphasizing, of course, that the bulk of wealth here in Britain is owned by a tiny minority. And it's in they have a vested interest to keep ordinary people on ordinary salaries at loggerheads with each other. And in doing so, you won't see that the small group of people, I say about 7 or 8%, it could very well be smaller than that percentage. It likely is smaller, actually. It's only a handful of families, about 20, 30 families out of 66 million people, you know? 20, 30 families, and they own the bulk of wealth here in Britain. But I would, if I may, I did want to put it on the screen, the specific report. It's in part of the intro video to that podcast. I'm just going to play, again, another minute or so of it, just to help those who didn't watch it. Again, very naughty you. I'm going to put a link to it in the description of this podcast, so you can have a look and review that particular podcast. But here, I'm going to play it now. I want you to listen carefully, because some of the facts is going to be quite astonishing. Now, this is actually real. This is not us saying it. This is the independent report commissioned by the Home Office. This is the independent report. There we go. Let me see if I can get up on the screen quickly. There we go.
And it was the Conservative Party, wasn't it?
It most certainly was. Yeah, it was indeed. But under pressure, I might add, okay? Important. There we go. Ready? There we go. Listen to this. Of which the deep-rooted racism of the Windrush scandal is a symptom. Support the Windrush Act. Yes! Great Britain's shame. The independent report into the historical roots of the Windrush scandal, published on the 24th September 2024. There are also more specific lessons to be learned from an investigation of the historical roots of the Windrush scandal. The Windrush scandal was caused by a failure to recognise that changes to immigration and citizenship law in Britain since 1948 had affected black people in the United Kingdom differently than they had other racial and ethnic groups. As a result, the experiences of Britain's black communities, of the Home Office, of the law, and of life in the United Kingdom have been fundamentally different from those of white communities. Support the Windrush Act. Yes! Great Britain's shame. The independent report into the historical roots of the Windrush scandal, published on the 24th September 2024. There are also more specific lessons to be learned from an investigation of the historical roots of the Windrush scandal. The major immigration legislation in 1962, in 1968, and 1971 was designed to reduce the proportion of people living in the United Kingdom who did not have white skin. The Prime Ministers involved include Harold Macmillan, who served between 1957 to 1963, a member of the Conservative Party. Prime Minister Harold Wilson served from 1964 to 1970, served the Labour Party. Prime Minister Edward Heath served from 1970 to 1974, the Conservative Party. Support the Windrush Act. Yes! Great Britain's shame. The independent report into the historical roots of the Windrush scandal, published on the 24th September 2024. There are also more specific lessons to be learned from an investigation of the historical roots of the Windrush scandal. The relationship between the Home Office and the organisation set up to deal with race relations was dysfunctional. In the second half of the 20th century, the work of the various governmental bodies in combating discrimination in the United Kingdom was separate from the task given to the Home Office to reduce immigration. This led to a paradoxical situation in which immigration policy assumed that too many immigrants from a minority ethnic background was bad for society, but race relations policy promoted the idea of racial equality. And that is the contradiction, of course, Abu. That is the contradiction. Let me get back here now. That is the contradiction, of course. That, of course, the Home Office, which has these many arms, and they're putting in different directions at the same time. And therein is the problem. Okay. But this is contained in the independent report into the historical roots of the Windrush scandal, commissioned by the Home Office. So every word that I narrated there is from the report itself. It's the report's language, not my language. It's the report language. Gosh. And if you want an example of that dysfunctional environment, it's there in the Home Office. But I say again, I'm confident that the new government is and will make a difference. What say you, Abu? And we've only got maybe another 5 minutes, so go ahead.
Whoa, gosh, you had the time gone. Oh
Oh,
gosh.
it's gone. I know.
I think for me, I think there's really we've got us. You know, the fact that the report it was done by the Conservative Party. It was done because they've been forced by the pressure of bureaucratic processes. So bureaucratic
That's right.
processes do have some values. At the same time as they
Lion
can,
mentality, Abu. The lion mentality will
and
not
yeah,
be
and there's
beaten or
something, yeah,
downtrodden. Absolutely. Go ahead.
and there's something about liberating this stuff. So, I mean, the
Hmm.
report. When I look at what's in the report, I've been ridiculed my entire life for stating some of the facts that are now in the report. So,
Indeed.
20 years ago, 5 years ago, even
Hmm.
now, people would poo-poo what's in that report. You know, there's a denial that
Oh,
we have to battle with, and
yeah.
I think the thing about this lion is you know, as a lion, when you start roar and people get frightened and thing, then we look upon you and say, is a troublemaker. Yeah,
Hold on
as
there.
a troublemaker.
Hold on. That's another narrative I hear frequently.
Mm,
But let me say so, because
mm,
that's why you're here. That's why you're here. I have to tell you that we are lions. And yes, they use different tactics to suppress your natural abilities. You know, they may say you're much too aggressive, intellectually much too aggressive, but yet they're the ones who've committed the worst atrocities against humanity. Yeah, they may say you're physically bulky and overbearing, but yet, given the opportunity, they will use weapons in the most heinous fashion and commit genocide on scales that no African could ever conceive. Yeah? So it's a narrative, it's propaganda. So we're not going to repeat it here. Because this is the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action. Because success is ours for the taking. That's the narrative we're going to power through on for this particular podcast. This is part one. And yes, we've had great, the time has flown by so quickly. I'm going to ask you, Abu, for your closing words on what, in respect of the 4 podcast reviews so far, because so much more to come. What is your general outlook in terms of the impact that these podcasts have had? You referred to the report, which has been now distributed as a result of the podcast to yourself and to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, not only in our African communities, as it were, but in the wider communities, appreciating the context in which we are looking at these issues. And now, as you say, it's been validated by an official report by the Home Office itself, the perpetrator, as it were, the arms of the perpetrator, as it were. But the ultimate perpetrator is, of course, Parliament.
yeah.
MPs. They're the ultimate perpetrator. The agency that we focus on is the Home Office because they're there to deliver. They're the stormtroopers, as it were. Okay, so it definitely has had an impact. It's resonating with tens of thousands. Dare I say, millions of people out there, because the obvious injustice is one that is intolerable and it's in conflicts with the standard that British society should be governed. Over to you. Over to you.
I would say my closing comments are this review of this selection of programs looking at sovereignty, statecraft.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a template for a global review of
Mm-hmm.
sovereignty and statecraft. Your
Mm-hmm.
programs have illustrated a snapshot of the human experience and
Mm-hmm.
the human challenge globally. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in that progression forward, that energy, that vitality, that lion that exists within humanity is
Mm-hmm.
something that should be expressed in a way that elevates our
Yes.
collective experience as
Yes.
opposed to caging us up We need to be stretching out and reaching out into the universal
There you go.
and
Yes.
reaching beyond the very narrow
Mhm.
navel gazing, which
Mhm.
obstructs people's growth,
Yes.
both intellectually, emotionally, and
Yes.
physically.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
we need to grow.
Yes.
And growing means, you know what? Sometimes you have to growl and you have to let out. And
Oh, so well said. Oh, should I play the lion? Did you hear the lion just growl a
yeah,
little
man,
bit?
let the lion roar.
Let me find the lion. Where's the lion? I don't know. We've gone. No, we've gone. Oh, let me put it up. Oh, let me put it up on the screen. There we go. There we go. Listen to this. Listen to the lion roar. There we go. 1 second. There we go. Listen to the lion roar. The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. Your lion mentality. The 2024 review show. Yes. Powerful, huh? That's
Yeah,
it.
man.
I see it in you so much, you know, Abu. I tell you. I tell you, I see it in you so much. The great man has spoken. Well, that was part one. That was part one. And Abu, I'm going to let you go now because well, I know we could go on for another hour, but I realize these podcasts are too long. We've got to do it in bite-sized chunks because not only have we looked at the reality of the British society, what we want to do in a future podcast is to look at the growth. Okay, I'm going to allude to Dr. Carlton Brown, for example. Okay, the entrepreneur who's creating wealth not only for his family and our communities, but for all communities. The enormous contribution being made by people such as him. We'll get to that in a future podcast. But right now, what we've been able to do is provide some true context, you know, and also appreciate, of course, our strengths, yeah, our sovereignty, to use your term, appropriate term. And you've highlighted a particular podcast where we've asserted our sovereignty, taking control. We've highlighted the challenge, and we've put in place solutions. Okay, so to change narrative, what Winston is doing is developing a cohort of authors. Yep, authors who can fill the gap, the enormous gaps in British literature that excludes people who are not white. It's a profound statement to say in 21st century Britain. My gosh, yeah? It is a profound statement. Yeah. Another profound statement, of course, Anthony Brown and the Windrush Act. He didn't take it. He didn't take it. He's a lion who's roared and is responding, organising, speaking to MPs, speaking to councillors, speaking to members of the community, in his community and wider communities, understanding the injustice and the stain, the shame on British society. Is that profound? And of course, your original highlight, and I think I just want to get back to that one, you know, when you started at the beginning of this, you know, the black maternal death scandal. Can you imagine a society that would treat people so profoundly different when they're most vulnerable during pregnancy and childbirth, would enact behavior that could cause death to that person, that vulnerable woman? I cannot tell you how much it hit my heart. You know, you've got children, I've got children. Can you imagine how profoundly offensive that is? I want to commend Councillor Evelyn Cotter and Professor Donna Kinnair on the Southwark Maternity Commission. They work with the NHS to seek reforms. And be assured that there will be reforms, because this is unacceptable. You highlighted that first, because I get it. We love children. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I enter
Mm-hmm.
public life supporting children, young people. Yeah? I know. So it kind of gets, use your term, get to our gut, you know, like, to use our term, the calm, you know, and we kind of feel it. Yes, we feel it. We can't, Yes,
Yeah.
that's our toes for English people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our toes. Yeah, huh? I mean, feel it most intensely. It's so profound. The
You know something
propaganda.
else? You know, as you
Go
mentioned the two sisters, I would
Mhm.
say this is something I think as a go-away statement. I think I've seen with our sisters,
Mhm.
part of this thing is them overworking.
Yes.
And I think it's very important that, yeah, pursue the battle.
Mhm.
But in this battlefield, make sure you have enough rest
Yes.
and restitution.
Yes.
Because what I see with our women is
Mhm.
overwork
Yeah.
and underpay. And that
Yes.
NHS institution, the way that it's been turned into a marketplace
Mhm.
where our people are the cannon fodder, it's important that people recognize the principle of making sure your people is all right. Means that you also have it all right as well.
Well
And
said.
the little
Well said.
fool money where them I give you, the
Mhm.
100 grand a year if you reach the top,
Mhm.
or the little 25 grand a year if you're there at the bottom,
Mhm.
or the 5 grand a year where you get because you get a little contract now and again.
Mhm.
That not sufficient for your health.
There you go.
Your
Yeah.
health is number one in your sovereignty, and with your health, you fight this battle here. Because this
That's right.
bureaucracy is
Yes.
phenomenal.
Can I just say, and I emphasised to both women that, of course, we men are there with you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I say again, we men are there with you because they're our children. You know, we give you the
Right,
life and you bear it
right.
for us. They're our children as well. And I was just, well, I guess, say again, there's no shade, no criticism that both the commission were all women and the all parliamentary, all party parliamentary group were all women as well. I know that they
Yeah,
will correct that and understand that.
and we got something else going on there with brother the demotivator. This program
No,
have been
no, we
going
won't
on
go there
because
now.
the
We won't go there
lion, we
now.
are the lion, and them no
Yeah.
want the man them around certain
No,
things.
hold on.
We
We're
have
not
to
going there
step
with
back.
that. We're not going there with that. As I said, it's just simply an oversight. Working together, anything is possible. Working together, anything is possible. And on that note, I need to bring this particular transmission to a close. I'm going to say to Abu Akil, we'll do this again soon. We need a part two because I can see you were only just getting started, and we've been on there for an hour or so. So you're only just getting started. But I can see because the shows for the past 2024 have been impactful. They're full of information, truly empowering, and they have created changes, both in people's lives and condition. Long may continue. Thank you, Abu. Thank you for being an outstanding, very important guest, our local VIP. Thank you. Good day to you. Good day. Good day.
Peace, brother.
Wow. Peace.
Demotivator.
And long may you give your family that love and tenderness always. Praise be. Thank you. Thank you.
Until
There you are. There you are. Woo! I think you would agree that was an inspirational podcast. And it's, wow. Having said it, and I've said it on a number of occasions now, that in fact, these podcasts would not be the same without you. Please do not, if you're on YouTube, don't simply leave. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe and leave a comment. Give us a thumbs up so it's clear. It's clear, you know. Give us the thumbs up so it tells YouTube algorithms we're here. But if you want to feedback, just feedback to us via the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear from you. But that was just a taster of a few shows in 2024. There are many more to come. We've not talked about Nigeria yet, okay? We need to talk about the business community, okay? And we definitely need to talk about, of course, Burkina Faso. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I say to you, if in doubt, ask questions. If in doubt, ask questions. If you don't know the question to ask, observe, listen, observe and listen. So I say unto you, I remain the motivator. Until the next strong Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your liar mentality. The 2024 review show. Your liar mentality. The 2024 review show. My guest and I will review some of the 2024 inspirational podcast. The majority of our podcast has provided vital information. My guests were invited to share their knowledge and experiences because they have previously demonstrated genuine compassion and determination. They create safe, inclusive environments from which Demotivatorshow audience can, with confidence, accept the knowledge shared free from bias or misinformation. This is part one of the 2024 podcast review. We welcome your feedback and suggestions of specific podcasts you would like to see reviewed. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your liar mentality. The 2024 review show. Anthony Brown's story. In the summer of 1982, Anthony Brown, then 21, was hoping for an acceptance letter for a place to study law in London. He'd worked hard for his A-levels in computing, maths, physics at North Trafford College in Manchester and was full of energy and idealism. Instead, he received a letter from the Home Office telling him he was in the UK illegally and needed to report to Manchester Airport for deportation. Brown, who was born in Jamaica but moved to England as aged 6 years old in 1967, had been classified as an immigration offender. Anthony Brown's story. Many people in Brown's position were repatriated, but his case was taken up by a group of campaigners who were determined to prevent his removal from the United Kingdom, launching what became known as the Anthony Brown anti-deportation campaign. Professor Gus John, then a community activist and now an academic and an equalities campaigner, helped coordinate it. Professor Gus John said, the system was barbaric. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your liar mentality. The 2024 review show. We love Nigeria. Ninus, 5-point proposition, is now the only viable mechanism for halting the state capture of Nigeria and for safely navigating Nigeria to the harbour of constitutional reconstruction. Proposition A. Acknowledgement of the constitutional grievances raised in union disputes. Proposition B. Express commitment to decommission the imposed fraudulent and unitary 1999 Constitution. Proposition C. Express commitment to suspend further national elections under the 1999 Constitution. The untenable outcome of the 2023 presidential election must now be transformed into an immediate transitioning for reworking the damaged constitutional basis of Nigeria. Proposition D. Constituent peoples of Nigeria to work out the modalities for transitioning. Proposition E. Announcement of a time-bound two-stage transitioning commence with a regional referendum for constituent components to recommit to or opt out of the Nigeria Union. Then delineation of terms of unions depending on outcomes of the referendums. Ninas is right. We love Nigeria. Transition for Union Reconfiguration. We love Nigeria. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your lion mentality. The 2024 review show. Southern Council's Maternity Commission evidence. Severe maternal morbidity, often referred to as near miss or near death. A study from 2014 shows that compared to white European women, black African women are 83% more likely and black Caribbean women are 80% more likely to suffer a near death whilst pregnant. Southern Council's Maternity Commission evidence. Systematic racism within the UK maternity care. Systematic racism within the UK maternity care is risking the safety of people from black, Asian and mixed ethnicity backgrounds, often with devastating consequences, according to a report by the childbirth charity Birthright. The Guardian newspaper article on the 23rd of May, 2022. Southern Council's Maternity Commission evidence. Demographics and wider determinant of health. The average age of Southern mothers in 2022 was around 33 years old, compared to 30.9 years old in England and Wales. Mothers over the age of 35 are at risk of complications during pregnancy and childbirth. Examples: preeclampsia, miscarriages, gestational diabetes, maternal mortality. Babies of older mothers face high risk of high or low birth weight, stillbirth, preterm birth, and chromosomal abnormalities. Southern Council's Maternity Commission's evidence. Staffing and staffing retention. Midwives and representatives from the maternity services workforce reported feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, exhausted and unsupported due to consistent staff shortages. Representatives emphasised the negative impact of understaffing on quality of care, frequently over the course of the evidence-gathering meeting. Results from the online survey showed that 31% of staff members felt that they had the capacity to deliver perinatal care to the highest standards. Of those who felt they could not, the main reasons were focused on staffing, with staffing reporting lone working when they should have been delivering care in a team of up to 4 staff members, as there was not enough staff or resources to provide the necessary care. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your lion mentality. The 2024 review show. Ethiopian World Federation, established 1937, under the principles of unity, solidarity, freedom, and self-determination. Ethiopia. His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I was the last reigning monarch of Ethiopia's Solomonic dynasty. The Solomonic dynasty traces its ancient ancestry to King Solomon of Israel and the Queen of Sheba, biblical figures who may have lived during the 10th century, before the Christian eras. The Ethiopian World Federation, incorporated EWF, is an intergovernmental organization that was founded on August 25th, 1937 in New York City under the authority of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I by Dr. Malachiu Emmanuel Baden and Princess Dorothy Baden. Ethiopian World Federation aims and objective. EWF shall promote love and goodwill amongst Ethiopians at home and abroad, and thereby maintain the integrity and sovereignty of Ethiopia, to disseminate the ancient Ethiopian culture amongst its members, to correct abuses, relieve oppression, and carve for ourselves and our posterity a destiny comparable with our ideas for perfect manhood and God's purpose in creating us, that we may not only save ourselves from annihilation, but also carve for ourselves a place in the sun. In this endeavor, we determine to seek peace and pursue it, for it is the will of God for man. Ethiopian World Federation's aims and objective. EWF shall promote and pursue happiness, for it is the goal of human life and endeavor, to usher in the teaching and practice of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, to promote and stimulate interest amongst its members in world affairs, and to cultivate a spirit of international goodwill and community, to promote friendly interest amongst its members, to develop a fraternal spirit amongst them, and to inculcate in its members the desire to render voluntary aid and assistance to one another at all times. Ethiopian World Federation aims and objective. EWF shall. Article 11, Section 1. Observance of national holidays. The Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated shall observe with appropriate ceremonies the following days: Mascal Festival, birthday of Emperor Haile Selassie I, Constitution Day, and any other holiday that shall be declared. Ethiopian World Federation, Mascal, the Feast of the Cross, occurs on the 17th of Meskulan in the Ethiopian calendar, or the 27th of September in the Gregorian calendar, or on the 28th of September in a leap year. Meskel is the Ethiopian and Eritrean Orthodox Tewahedo Church holiday that commemorates the discovery of the true cross by the Roman Empress Saint Helena of Constantinople in the 4th century. Meskel is celebrated by Oriental Orthodox members of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, the Eritrean Orthodox Tewahedo Church. Ethiopian World Federation. The feast is held in Meskel Square, named after the festival, in the capital city of Addis Ababa. Religious and civil leaders preside over the celebrations, and the public figures give speeches in reference to biblical themes and stories. UNESCO inscribed Meskel in 2013 on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Your lion mentality. The 2024 review show. The amazing Gula Geechee community of Sierra Leone to North Carolina, to Sierra Leone of North Carolina. Direct family lineage. The Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking. Kingdoms of ancient Africa before the great Ma'afa. Ma'afa meaning the African Holocaust, the Holocaust of chattel enslavement, the great disaster, the great tragedy. Ma'afa is a term used to refer to the centuries-long enslavement and murder of millions of Africans by white Europeans, North Americans and others. According to the Transatlantic Chattel Enslavement Database, during the era of the slave trade from 1525 to 1866, approximately 12.5 million Africans were kidnapped from Africa and sent across the Atlantic Ocean to be sold into a lifetime of enslavement, brutality, involuntary forced servitude. Magnamizi is a Swahili term which speaks to the intentionality of the African Holocaust of chattel colonial, neo-colonial enslavement. Example: the British monarch Elizabeth I believed that capturing Africans against their will be detestable and call down vengeance of heaven upon the undertakers. Yet, after seeing the huge profit available, she lent royal ships to John Hawkins, a merchant trader and later a naval administrator, was the first Englishman enslaver of Africans. Kingdoms of ancient Africa before the great Ma'afa. The Mali Empire, a powerful West African empire from about 1235 to 1600 CE, known for its wealth, trade, and famous rulers like Mansa Musa. The Wagadu Empire, an empire in West Africa that existed from the 8th to the 11th centuries, often associated with Ghana Empire, but distinct in its earlier formation. The Kingdom of Mercuria, a Christian kingdom of Nubia, modern-day Sudan, that existed from the 4th to the 14th century, known for its resistance to Arab conquest. The Kingdom of Aksum, a powerful kingdom in modern-day Ethiopia and Eritrea, which existed from around 100 CE and continued until about the 10th century, known for its monumental obelisk and the role in early Christianity in Africa. Kingdoms of ancient Africa before the Great Ma'afa. The Germanate, a Berber kingdom located in what is now Libya, which existed from around 500 BCE to 700 CE and was known for its advanced irrigation systems. The Kingdom of Tekur, a West African kingdom that existed from around the 9th to the 14th century, located in what is now Senegal and Mauritania. The Kingdom of Congo, located in Central Africa, in what is now Angola and the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. It was established around the 14th century and flourished for several centuries. The Kushite Kingdom, also known as the Kingdom of Kush, it was centered in Nubia, south of Egypt, and existed from around 1070 BCE to around 350 CE. The Kushite even ruled Egypt as the 25th dynasty. Great Zimbabwe, a kingdom in modern-day Zimbabwe, known for its impressive stone cities, flourishing between the 11th and 15th centuries. Kingdoms of ancient Africa before the Great Ma'afa. Numidia, an ancient Berber kingdom in North Africa, modern-day Algeria and Tunisia, that existed from around the 3rd century BCE to BCE 45. The Kingdom of Mabagumwa, a kingdom in modern-day South Africa that flourished between the 11th and 13th century, known for its rich trade networks and gold artifacts. The Egyptian Empire, or Old, Middle and New Kingdoms, located along the River Nile in North Africa. Ancient Egypt was one of the earliest, most powerful civilizations in history, flourishing from around 3100 BCE to 332 BCE. Punt, an ancient kingdom located in the Horn of Africa, flourishing as early as 2500 BCE. It was famous for trade with ancient Egypt. Kingdoms of ancient Africa before the Great Ma'afa. The Kingdom of Benin, located in what is now Nigeria. The Benin Kingdom was a pre-colonial African state that existed from the 11th century to the 19th century. The Nok culture, an ancient civilization that existed in modern-day Nigeria from around 1000 BCE to 300 CE, known for its terracotta sculptures. The Efe Kingdom, an ancient kingdom in southwestern Nigeria, flourishing from around the 11th to the 15th centuries, known for its sophisticated bronze and terracotta sculptures. The Marina Kingdom, a historical kingdom located in the Central Highland of Madagascar, founded in the 14th century and lasting until the 19th century. The Zulu Kingdom was founded in 1816 by Shaka Zulu, who was a highly influential leader. Shaka's military innovation and reforms transformed the Zulu tribe into a formidable warrior nation, united various Ngugi groups and expanding the kingdom's territory through conquest. The amazing Gula Geechee community. Reparations begins with self. We're responsible for our personal reparations. The amazing Gula Geechee community. The transatlantic slave voyage database revealed the last ship departing the Sierra Leone estuary in 1756, carrying 71 captives, who arrived at the port of Charlestown, South Carolina. Elias Ball's, Edward Ball's ancestors, purchased at least 5 young Africans that day, including Priscilla, believed to be about 10 years old at the time. At a quiet Sunday afternoon, the Polite family, Antoine, Tomlin, Faith, and Martin, embarked on a private outing. They drove from their homes in North Charleston to the museum and quickly made their way to the front desk. Guided by research assistant Darius Brown, they headed straight to the Center for Family History. Wasting no time, the Polite family approached the exhibit. Each document and relic became a portal to the past, offering glimpses into the unimaginable hardship Priscilla endured. In that room, one could imagine the long walk from a village in Sierra Leone, the harrowing Middle Passage, the brutality on the rice plantations, and Priscilla's enduring legacy through the 8 generations with Faith and Martin Polite. The atmosphere in the museum genealogy department was emotionally charged. Tomlin, Faith, and Martin, 7th and 8th generation descendants, shared their story on the wall with Antoine, who is affectionately known in Sierra Leone as Priscilla Man. When they travelled to that country in 2005, Priscilla's narrative came alive through meticulously preserved records and artifacts, enriched by the presence of her living descendants. Demotivatorshow. Success is ours for the taking.